Hi class, my name is Dr. Kennedy Paron, and we are going to discuss Chapter 5, Section 4, Motor Development and How They Move. So neonates can begin to move their head slightly from side to side at birth. By 3 to 6 months of age, the baby is able to hold up their head independently without any assistance. But prior to this, they needed help to brace their head and neck for support so that they don't injure themselves. Infants that do not have their neck supported often lead to neck injuries, unfortunately. So the brain structure provided by the text, I just wanted to include this for anybody who loves to learn visually. This is a very good resource of all the brain structures that we're going to cover and where they are located. So for controlling your hands, so hand skills are an example of proximodistal development. Infants follow moving objects with their eyes right after birth. They also can grasp, but not necessarily at anything in particular or accurately for that matter. So there's a lot of interest from them and they like to touch things. In regards to the visceral motor coordination, it is required for grasping and reaching for items. By 3 months of age, the infant can actually swipe at different objects, trying to grasp them, but maybe failing to do so. Between 4 and 6 months, the infant can grasp objects and hold on to them, but they tend to not want to let go. An example of this would be grabbing for someone's nose or hair and pulling. 4 to 6 months of age is a great time to start your child playing with rattles and holding spoons and doing anything with dexterity of the hands. We're going to talk more about grasping. So grasping starts as a reflex. So this is called an ulnar grasp. This is a method of an object being grasped in which the fingers close somewhat clumsily against the palm. So it's not a very strong grip. But when this grip becomes voluntary, it becomes holding of objects. So when they can control wanting to do it, yes or no, then that would be voluntarily holding something versus grasping at it. The next is a type of grasp that occurs at 3 to 4 months of age. This is called the pincher grasp. This is the use of opposing thumb and grasping an object between the thumb and the other fingers. This is a stronger grip, and roughly by the age of a year, the child will hold items in both hands. Between 5 and 11 months, the child moves from grasping steady objects to grasping moving objects. So then we're going to talk about visual motor coordination. So what this means is that the baby can track an item with their eyes and move their hands towards it to grab it. So they're also using their eyes to coordinate their hand movement, hand-eye coordination, and they can even stack items. So by 15 months of age, a child can normally stack 2 blocks on their own on top of one another. By 18 months of age, a child can maybe stack 3 blocks. By 24 months, they're supposed to be able to stack 5 blocks. And finally, at the age of 2 years, a child can copy both vertical and horizontal lines. The next thing we're going to talk about is called locomotion. Locomotion is the movement from one place to another by the child. Children learn to move their bodies through crawling, rolling, sitting up, walking, and even running. So at 6 months of age, most infants actually can roll over on their backs to their stomachs and then back over to their backs. From 8 to 9 months of age, most infants begin to creep, which is a similar movement that supports themselves on their arms, propelling themselves forward slowly while pulling their legs behind them, similar to an army crawl. Creeping and crawling look very different for every baby. No 2 babies are the same, they're all unique. So some roll from place to place, some do a bear walk, some even stand up in a crawling position, and you often see in babies. But when supported by adults, they often will attempt to walk voluntarily if supported in the stomach area or even under the armpits. Next, we're going to talk about toddlers. So a child who walks within a short gait and uncertain step number is a toddler. A toddler typically is defined as somebody who is 12 months to 30 months of age. They will also babble at this stage. So babbling is not language. It's making sounds, producing sounds with your mouth that don't have a meaning. Maybe like ba, 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 ka, 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 da, da, da. Just symbols, syllables over and over again. The child will smile and laugh at this age as well, especially as they accomplish their milestones. So next we're going to talk about nature versus nurture and motor development. So some voluntary motor movements are not possible until the maturation of the brain occurs. So what that means is newborn babies will show stepping and swimming reflexes, but these are caused by primitive parts of the brain and will disappear once the cortical development stops in the function in the lower part of the brain as maturation. So they will lose these reflexes and have to learn to swim. So once the movements reappear, they differ in quality and movement as well. So infants need to begin opportunities to sit up and walk. They need to be given these opportunities and helped and supported. These advances towards milestones and movements can also be contributed to maturation of the infant in the brain. So there was a study on twins and motor development that I'd like to discuss. Arnold Gessel studied the motor development and movement of twins. One twin received training for motor movement while the other received nothing. It was then found in the end both twins had equal movement abilities, even though one received the training, and that the twin with no training caught up to the other twin. So motor movement development can actually speed up the training slightly. However, neural development and maturation is not there yet. Then it impacts is very, very slim, and the other baby will catch up. Next, we move on to 5.5, sensory and perceptual development, taking in the world.